In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to do the absolute basics of what's called Amigurumi, and that is crochet in the round to create these little stuffed animals. One of the things that you may have seen using this technique is the Woobles kits that are all over the place. This video is broken into 4 parts. First, the magic circle, then second, increasing, third, the straightaway, fourth, decreasing, and then fastening off at the end. The materials that I'm working with here are worsted weight yarn, scissors, some form of stitch marker. I really like using a bobby pin, and you'll see why soon. And then a 3.75 millimeter crochet hook. Now, the reason why we need to use something about this size is amigurumi, we want to have it be very tight with the stitches because we don't want to see through to the stuffing. So that's why you want to use a hook of this size with this weight yarn. Also, you're going to need a tapestry needle and stuffing. Part 1, magic circle. The first thing that we need to do is unravel just a little bit of yarn like this. And the tail, I'd have it be, a few inches long. And with your left hand right here, you're going to make a little finger gun, okay? Now we are going to drape the tail toward yourself like this, okay? Now with the working yarn, because we can see I have that up here, I'm going to take this and I am going to cross over, so it's like a little X, and then I'm going to turn my fingers over, okay? So we have 2 little pieces right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hook, I'm going to grab the one underneath, I'm going to grab the one on the left, and I'm going to pull it underneath the one on the right. And then this is the part a lot of people get confused by. So I'm going to get a little bit closer here. We are just going to chain 1. So if you know what that means, great. If not, what we're doing is we are draping the yarn over the hook and we're just pulling it through that loop right there. So we're grabbing it. So we're grabbing it and pulling it through. And then we are taking our fingers out. Okay, so I'm going to show that again from the beginning. And I know it seems kind of complicated, but it's actually a lot easier than you think, and it just takes a little practice to get used to. So again, the tail is here. We cross over, so it's got that X, and then we're going to turn it. We grab the one on the left, we pull it under the one on the right, and then we drape the yarn over, grab it, pull through, and then we take our fingers out, and that is our setup step. Okay, now what you'll notice here, there's a little twist at the bottom, there's a line at the top. This is going to be our portal that we're working into. So if you're familiar with crochet, we are going to go into this like it's just one big stitch. If you're not, don't worry about that, but if you have that background, that might help you out. What I am going to do is, again, making sure that twist is at the bottom, I'm going to go in. So you can see the yarn, I'm kind of holding that in the back here. We're going to go into the portal. We're going to drape the yarn over. We grab it, we pull through, and then we drape the yarn over again and pull through 2. And that is going to be our first. If we look at the pattern that we're following here, which the PDF to that is in the description, we are magic circling 6. So we're putting 6 stitches into this circle because most patterns will do that as their starting point. So we have our first one. Now we are going to do 5 more. So we go in, we drape it, pull through, we yarn over again, we pull through 2. All right, we go in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And you can see right here, if you lose track, it's just the little V's. So there's 1, 2, 3 of those. So now we know we just need 3 more. So yarn over, pull through. That's 4, 5, 6. All right. Now, we call it the magic circle. This is the part where the magic happens. This twist at the bottom, we now need to unravel that. So I'm going to pull this apart twice. It's going to be 1 and then 2. Okay? So all these stitches here, I'm going to hold on to those, and then I'm going to grab the tail right there and pull on this. I'm going to do it like this. So I'm grabbing the stitches, I have the tail, I pull on that. Voila. Now, the last thing that I'll say before we go on to the next step, I don't pull so tight that this hole goes in, because sometimes that tightens the first stitch a little bit. So a little pro tip, I find that it's a little bit easier if you just leave that a little looser, and then after we do the first row, we will pull on that tail a little more to get that fully tightened up. Part 2, increases. So before we go on to row 2, which is an increase row, we need to put our stitch marker on. So we're gonna take this, what I'm using the bobby pin, and slide this on. You can use a paper clip or an actual stitch marker, but I like using a bobby pin because you can literally just slide it onto the stitch and pull it off. You don't have to like unclasp anything. And I find that that is my favorite, or my preferred stitch marker. If my wife is watching this, this is where all your bobby pins went to. I'm really sorry, I should probably get my own. When you are looking for the stitches, again, if you've crocheted before, you'll be familiar. This is a stitch, this is one, this is one. You have to hold it so you can see these V's around the outside. And again, we have 6 of them. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are going to increase in each stitch. So when you see an increase on the pattern, it says increase, and then there's a little asterisk. What that means, or there's a little star by it. That means you repeat that. So we are repeating an increase in every stitch. So we're going to put 2 in each stitch, making the stitch count go from 6 to 12. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we're ready for the next row. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to go in, I'm going to go under both bars of the V like this. I'm going to drape the yarn over the hook, grab it, pull through, drape it over again, grab it, pull through 2, like that. So before I go on to this stitch right here, I need to go back into this one. And this is one of the trickier parts, is seeing, well, what is the stitch I just went into and what's the one that I'm like currently in. This clean V is what I would call where there's like nothing going on there. That is the next stitch. The one that we can see there's something coming out of, that's the one that we just went into. So since we had just done 1, we now need to go back into that same stitch, yarn over, pull through, whoop, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, so you can see as well, if you lose track, we have increase. Those 2 are in the 1 stitch. So we're gonna do that again. Now we're ready to move on to the next one. We go in, and I counted out like in, and then on the second one, crease. Or you can literally count. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So then we know 5, 6. Then on to the next one, 7 and 8. And then 9 and 10. And then lastly, we have this one, 11, and 12. And with that, we are back to the stitch marker. So when you get to the point where the next stitch is the stitch marker, you need to stop for a second. And first of all, we see this hole. I'm going to pull on this tail here a little more and close that up entirely. And we need to cross off the row, because for this pattern, we just finished row number 2. So now we're on to row number 3. So many people think, all right, row 3, great, I understand the increasing. Now I'm just gonna do the exact same thing again. But you can't do that, because if you were to increase in every single stitch, it would get us too many stitches too fast. So row number 3, you'll notice on the pattern, it says single crochet and then increase. What does that mean? What it means is, first, we switch the stitch marker over to the loop on the hook. What we need to do is a single crochet in this one. So we go into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Regular single crochet. But rather than going back into it, we skip on to this next one and we increase in that. So we put 2 in this stitch, and then we put 1 in this one, 2 in this one, 1 in this one, 2 in this one. So I'm going to count it out. We look at the stitches here. We see 1, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And that is how we are going to get to 18. And the numbers, when you see the number in the parentheses at the end of each row, what that means is this is how many stitches you are supposed to have at the end of the row. So what we can see is at the end of the row 3, we should have 18. And we can use the stitch marker to count that. So I'm actually going to do this now. I go in, first one, we yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 1. Now we go on to the next one. We go in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Back in that same one, pull through 2. So that was our increase. Then we move on to the next one. We go in, pull through 2. And then increase in this one. Pull through 2. Back into that same stitch, pull through 2. Hopefully you're starting to get the rhythm of it at this point. So, say for example, you talk to your friend, whatever, your dog jumps on your lap, something happens, and you're anything like me, you're going to forget what the heck was going on. So, what you have to do every now and then is maybe count and see. So if I'm going to start with the one that the stitch marker is on. I'm going to say 1, increase, 1, increase. So now I know 1 is next. So I'm going to go on to this one and do 1, and then increase. So you can, I need to go through that other one. So you can always check and see, where am I in the continuum of the pattern? How many stitches do I have, etc. By just going 1, increase, 1, increase, 1, increase, 1, increase. So now it should be 1, increase, 1, and then we're ending on an increase here. Increase. Okay, so you can see as we count, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then that's where we would start the next one. So we are perfectly on track right now. And as I pass this over, I'm signifying that I'm now starting row 4. Row 4 has 2 single crochets and then an increase. It's the same idea, but now we do a single in the first one and a single in the second one, and then we go back in the same one, crease. So that's what I mean when I say single, single, increase. So you do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then you do an increase. Okay, now for this example, that is where we are going to stop with the increases. But before we move on, we are going to check and see, do we have the right stitch count? So again, starting with the stitch that the stitch marker is on, we count, we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That is 24 stitches. That is exactly the number that we are supposed to have here. Okay, so that is the end of the increase section, and now we're ready to move on. Part 3, straightaway. This part constitutes rows 5, 6, and 7, and it does not involve any increases, which is why you can see the stitch count remains at 24 for all of this. And what you're gonna notice is this is the part where it goes from being like a circle to more of a bowl shape. So I'm really just gonna show row 5 because that's basically all you need to see, because 5, 6, and 7 are exactly the same. So as before, we're gonna switch the stitch marker over to the loop on the hook. We're gonna tighten, and then we are going to go into that, and we're just going to start like single crochet, move on to the next one, single, move on to the next one, single, and we are putting 1 stitch in every stitch. So what I would try to make sure on is when you finish this row that you still have 24 and that you didn't accidentally skip or go into one twice, because if you have more, it means you accidentally increased by going in to a stitch multiple times, or it means if you have less that you accidentally skipped one. And that is something, luckily because of the stitch marker, you can pull back that row and redo it, and it's really not that big of a deal. There's a nice thing about that, it's very easy to correct your mistakes with crochet, much more so than it is with knitting. So as I get to the end of this row, the first row of the straightaway, so row number 5, you can see it's already starting to create that bowl situation. Now what I will say, the side that is the wrong side, or the part that you want on the inside, is the one where the tail is sticking out of. So after the first row, when it starts to curl, flip it like this, so that it's like, a good way to think about it is like surrounding this tail right here, because that's the way that's supposed to be on the outside. I know some people prefer for this side to be outside because it's a little smoother, but we're going to be principled on this one. We are going to do the way that it's kind of intended to be done. Also because it's much easier to go into the stitches if they're facing this way versus if they're tilted toward you. A little harder to work with that. All right. So anyway, that is row 5. Now we're going to go on to row 6. And again, just single crochet all the way to the end of the row, not increasing. And we are coming to the end right here. So there we go. So that's it for the straightaway. And now we're ready to move on to the last little stage. Part 4, decrease and finish. Now for this last part right here, you will notice that the decreases are an inverse of the increases exactly that we had done, where, you know, if you look at row 8, it is the opposite of row 4. Where row 4 we are doing single, single increase. Row 8 we are doing a single, single decrease. And just like in from 3 to 4 we were going from 18 to 24, in row 8 we're going from 24 stitches to 18. So we take the stitch marker off, we put it on, the loop on the hook, and we begin. So we do a single, and then a single, and now what we need to do is consolidate 2 stitches down to 1 stitch. So if I look at this, right, I have my next 2 stitches here. Those I need to grab and put onto 1 stitch. And I'm going to show you what's called the invisible decrease because it's the best way to do it with this. You put your hook through the first loop of the first stitch and the first loop of the second stitch. When I say the first loop, what I mean is the loop that's closer to you. So I'll take that out. When we look at the V, it's not this one. It's this one that's closer. All right, so front loop, we drape it over, we pull through those 2, we yarn over again, and pull through 2. That's the decrease. When you do the decrease, you'll notice there's a bit of a slant. It's kind of confusing what you're looking at. The next stitch is here. So we got all of this. It's like sled down this hill right here. That's kind of how you think about it. And then this is here. So we're going to do a single and another single, and then a decrease. So again, the front loop of this one, front loop of this one, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, just like the increases, if you forget if you're on a decrease or an increase, you can see it's 1, 2, decrease. 1, 2, decrease. So now I'm going to be doing 1, and then 2, whoop, and then front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. 1 and 2, front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then 1 and 2, front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then the last one, because we're going to end on a decrease, it's 1, 2, 2, and then we see we have 2 left. So front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, that's the end of row 8. What I will say, I could have done this earlier, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it now. This tail is kind of getting in my way here, and I want to make sure that ends on the inside. So I am going to cut this right here, and I'm just going to put it on the inside, just like that. Okay, it's nice and tight. I don't have to weave anything in. That's the nice thing about Amigurumi. So now for our last little bit here. I'm going to put this on again. So now for row 9, I already switched it over. This one is going to be just a single and a decrease. So single crochet, and then front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Single crochet, front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And again, this is an inverse of row number 3. Now, as you can see here, Now that is the end of row 9. We're almost ready to finish this and do row 10, which is our last row of this entire thing. Before I do that, I need to stuff this. So I get a little bit of polyfill. Another thing you can use, honestly, if you have like scrap yarn that is just kind of laying around, it's maybe tangled, you can stuff it with that too. To reuse something that you might otherwise throw away. That's kind of nice. So there we go. That is all taken care of. And now we are going to do row 10, which is the inverse of, well, I guess row 2. It's just getting us back down to 6 stitches. Yeah, it would be the inverse of row 2 because we're going to decrease every single time. So on this one, again, switch our stitch marker over. And then it's just front loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I try not to pull any of this stuffing in as well because, you know, that's going to be, I don't really want that stuffing to show through. And that's part of the reason why I wait until the end to do that. All right, so I get to the last one, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So again, if I count this out, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in total, and we can see our sphere shape. But now we need to close this off, all right? So first thing that I do, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my hook, I'm gonna pull up. All right, so that then we have a larger hole, and I'm going to cut this. I'll leave a few inches here, and I'll show you why in a second. And I feed it through this loop right here, you can see, and I pull it nice and tight. Now for closing this up, we can take out the stitch marker. We don't need that anymore. We can see there's this ring of stitches, and there is a certain way that I like to fasten this off in a way that closes this very nicely. So pay close attention with this. We're going to take our tapestry needle. I think I forgot to mention that in the slides, but you will need that. I like to use the metal ones because those are a little bit more durable. You know, they're not going to snap when you pull it through. We have this little corner right here. I like to fold that down. So naturally covers that pretty nicely. And then if we look at the stitches themselves, we can see there is an outer, I mean, it's just like what we were looking at before. There's an inner one and an outer one. I like to go through this back one. So I pull this through like that, and then I turn. I go through the back loop of this one. It's not, you don't have to follow the same path exactly, but these are the places that I like to go as I sew this shut. And you can see I'm kind of pulling it tight each time. So as I find those stitches, you know, I kind of tug on that. That is going to be perfect for what I have going on here. Now, the last thing that I'm going to do to finish this, I don't need to tie anything. I am going to go in one more time like this. I just noticed a little hole, maybe one more here. Okay, so you can see that's pretty nicely sewn up. You can't tell too much going on. The last thing that we do is pull it through to the other side. So I'm going to go back in the same hole that I went in here, and I'm going to pull it through just somewhere on the other side. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight so it squishes. I'm going to hold that tension for a second, and then I am going to come in with the scissors, cut, and then give it a squish. And what do you know? We have got a completed sphere. Hopefully this video has been helpful for understanding the basics of amigurumi, and thank you guys for watching.